After a little while of inspecting boat after boat, you start to see a lot of the same things over. Today I'm going to go through 6 of the most common Mercruiser faults that I'll find on a daily basis. Leaking sea pumps are one of the most common problems that I'll find. Typically you'll get a couple of years out of a sea pump and they start to leak out the very front of the seals. What happens is this runs down the pulley, and as you're running the engine, it sprays water around the whole entire engine bay. Now this can cause a large amount of corrosion, so this is why it's so important to get onto this before it does that much damage. The second most common thing that I find are transom assemblies. Boats that live in salt water tend to have corrosion problems around the steering pin. They sit just above or just below the waterline depending on the make and manufacturer of the boat, but over time they start to drip in through the back of the transom. If this gets left, what you'll find is you'll corrode the whole transom assembly away, and later on you can even potentially find holes. If this gets caught early on, it is possible to do a steering repair, but you'll find that not every mechanic will be prepared to do that. The other thing to take into consideration is that if you do a steering repair and it costs you a couple of $1,000s, if you're going to be back in a month or even in 12 months changing bellows or trim rams, it's not worth it. The third most common problem is exhaust manifolds. Now this isn't something that is as common anymore now that we've got dry joint manifolds and risers, which means we've got a style where the water runs on the outside a little bit further away from the exhaust. The older style, which have very small water galleries very close to the exhaust, tend to leak. And what happens is if they leak back in the engine, you cause the engine to fail and you're up for a new engine. The fourth most common problem I find is IAC motors. So when I say IAC, I mean idle air control. And this is a small electronic valve that regulates the amount of air going into the engine at idle. It's not uncommon to find them seize or just completely stop working. You'll often find you've got to use throttle to start the engine. If it runs with throttle, but then when you bring it back to idle stalls, it's an IAC motor. Another common problem to find on Mercruisers are water pressure sensors. Now Mercury uses these water pressure sensors over a number of different engines, whether it be an inboard or an outboard, but what they found was the sensors on the outboards weren't failing. The reason for this was because they had a longer distance between the water. There's now a superseded kit which comes with a tube and the fittings to fit it to get that sensor further away from the water, so there's less chance of water getting in the sensor. The last problem I see a lot is on a freshwater cooled engine. You'll find the heat exchanger leaking. Unfortunately, they tend to leak on the side that is above the alternator because of the way the water flows. Then you get salt water dripping on your alternator, and if left untouched, you'll find you've not only got a leaking heat exchanger, but you'll also have an alternator that doesn't work. Those are the 6 most common things I find. If you find my content useful or entertaining, don't forget to hit subscribe and stay tuned for more videos.